Assalamualaikum and a very good evening. My name is Noel Dani Adiba. I would like to start with introduction of Ijarah. Ijarah is a contract between two parties or more, which one party between lessor, the owner of asset, or through agent, lease out this asset to the client at agreed lease price and duration of lease. The ownership of the asset remains with the lessor. This contract is totally different with the scheme of debtor and creditor, since it's based on the buyer-seller of an asset. Even though Sukuk Ijarah has been popularly applied by government and private sector in ensuring the continuation of economic growth, Sukuk Ijarah are limited use liquidity management instrument, at least until a large supply with a parity issuance become the norm and a secondary market in land develops. Besides that, initial structuring and issuance cost of Sukuk Ijarah at the moment is quite high. Only a large, credible and more transparent institutions are so far able to participate in Sukuk Ijarah deals. One of many sukuk that most contribute to increase the economic welfare is a Sukuk Ijarah. Sukuk Ijarah is the most accepted sukuk among the Islamic scholar and the most popular applied in the project financing. In Malaysia, Sukuk Ijarah is one of the most popular sukuk structure in the global market since its first introduction in 2021. Likewise, in Indonesia, although Islamic capital market is just to start to be developed in 2003, it gives confidence to improve to sukuk with a 72% in 2007. Besides that, not only Muslim countries who develop sukuk, especially Sukuk Ijarah, but other countries who realize that sukuk is becoming important to their countries such as China, Japan, Thailand, Germany. Besides that, Sheikh Mufti Taqi Uthmani has criticized on the Sukuk Ijarah and concluded that almost all sukuk in the market are not in line Shariah guidelines.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Nur Hikmah binti Razlan. Based on our research, we found that there are three main issues in Sukuk Ijarah. So, firstly, my issue is guarantee in sukuk. Conventional bonds are not considered permissible by many Muslims for two reasons: because of the use of interest as we know as riba, because it may finance other businesses that profit from other Islamic impermissible activity such as alcohol and gambling. To avoid these two realities, the sukuk security pay out its investor in the form of profit and not interest, and this profit generally is derived from a tangible asset, the most common form of sukuk. Guarantee in sukuk was come up since the originator benefiting from sukuk process established, which is the special purpose vehicle known as SPV. SPV is critical financial tool in the implementation of the sukuk. Under a sukuk security based on tangible asset, SPV is created by the originator, which hold the asset in question to protect them from creditor if the originator have financial trouble. Then, the SPV will issue a sukuk security to raise funds for the purchase of asset. Acting as a trustor for the holder of the sukuk, the SPV leaves the assets back to the originator, who then pass on the income from the lease to the sukuk holder. Finally, at the point of maturity of the sukuk, the originator buy back the asset at a nominal price. So, we move to the next slide, which is the main reason why it becomes as an issue, because firstly, regarding on investment sukuk, which it can establish that the document should not include a declaration that the person who issued the certificate can accept the consequence and guarantee a fixed percentage of profit to the certificate owner until the certificate's normally value is reached. Second, a third party is allowed to willing guarantee that he or she will pay the party to whom the operating is granted for investment loss, so that guarantee do not relate to any financing contract. Lastly, the most important part is many people use this strategy to protect their sukuk investment. This is because if their portfolio suffer significant loss, other investor has left time to recover.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Nur Amira Akila binti Sazali, and right now I'm going to explain the second issue that we found in Sukuk Ijarah, which is pricing of sukuk. First, in Sukuk Ijarah, it involves with the use of pricing. Usually, the price of the asset will be determined by the market prices during that time. Second, the use of LIBOR as benchmark to determine the interest rate in Islamic finance. London Interbank Offer Rate, or we call it as LIBOR, is the global reference rate for unsecured short-term borrowing in the interbank market. It is also act as the benchmark for the short-term interest rate. Third, the trustee or the issuer who buy the asset will receive interest as the profit. So why all of these things become an issue? Let's take a look. First, Sukuk Ijarah prices are depending on the market prices. This shows that the investment will be volatile since the prices of the asset will be determined based on the demand and supply in the market. It will become vulnerable if our economy has been disrupted, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Second is the use of LIBOR. LIBOR is administered by the Intercontinental Exchange, where they will ask the global major banks on how much would they charge for other banks for the short-term loans. In Islamic finance, there is no specific benchmark in order to determine the interest rate for the asset. So they have no choice but to follow and depend on the conventional market benchmark, which is LIBOR, in order to determine the interest rate in Islamic instruments. Third, as I mentioned before, LIBOR has been used to determine the interest rate in Islamic finance. However, LIBOR has been subjected to manipulation, scandal, and also methodological critique that make it less credible today as a benchmark rate. It is not impossible if one day LIBOR will be removed from the capital market, and if this thing happen, it will cause problems in the future transaction in sukuk market since we have no specific benchmark to determine our interest rate. Last but not least, the transaction in Sukuk Ijarah involve with the use of interest. In Sukuk Ijarah, the originator need to pay interest to the issuer in order to get their asset back. The trustee or the issuer will receive interest as their profit. We all know that in Islamic transaction, we must follow and obey the Shariah law. However, riba or interest is one of the prohibited things under Shariah law. This shows that this practice is completely opposite from Shariah law, and also the concept in Sukuk Ijarah has become more or less like a conventional bond.
Assalamualaikum everyone, my name is Cikgu Nur Husina binti Cikgu Fauzi. So, the third issue that we found in Sukuk Ijarah is on its sales and leaseback structure. There is a scholar said that Sukuk Ijarah is the modified of Bay al-Wafa or Bay al-Istiqlal or Bay al-Ina. These contracts have similarities characteristics. Firstly, I am going to explain what is Bay al-Wafa. For your information, Bay al-Wafa is a contract where the owner of a property sells its asset with the condition that he will take it back once he can repay the payment to the buyer. In a simple way, it means that the owner of the asset just need money, but they do not want to lose their asset. So, by renting the asset to whom can sell it by cash, give the same result as such a renting by Ijarah Muntahiyah bi al-Tamlik, which means lease contract that ends with ownership. Likewise, to Bay al-Istiqlal, that selling the asset with the promised condition where the seller leases out the asset. Once he can pay back the price, he will get his asset, and this will be the end of sale and lease back contract. So does Bay al-Ina, which consists of two sales in one transaction with spot price and the others with deferred higher price.
This transaction alike, the seller needs the remaining money from this transaction, which means that the seller sells the asset to the buyer and the seller buys back by cash with a lower price. The reason why it become an issue is because of the similarities between Sukuk Ijarah, sales and leaseback structure, and these three types of pay is considered as a trick of a riba. As I said earlier, Sukuk Ijarah is the modified of these three contract, which is Bay al-Wafa, Bay al-Inah dan Bay al-Istiqlal. This three contract has trick of a riba in its structure, so some consider that Sukuk Ijarah also has the elements of riba. This is because even the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution (AAOFI) gets trapped because of this structure, as they already approved this concept.
As for resolution, Sukuk Ijarah needs to be evaluated on the scale of Makasih Shariah. There are 4 problems that come up from the Sukuk. Therefore, the first issue needs to be analysed through the light of Makasih Shariah is Sukuk securitization. Through the concept of Sukuk Ijarah also need to be reflected in issue, where it provides the precaution for the parties in Sukuk to protect their rights and wealth. Secondly, SPV will reduce the cost regarding the issuance of Sukuk, where the issuer can get the high return. Thirdly, the cost of establishment SPV still needs to be discussed, since it triggers the Makasih Shariah perspective. Next, the light of Makasih Shariah are the price and listing Sukuk. Last one is law. It's very important to create the credibility Sukuk issuer and to protect the right of Sukuk holder. Sukuk Ijarah definitely already processed based on the Makasih Shariah perspective, where the Sukuk application fulfilled by the spirit of Islamic law.